Let's see how this goes. This is the first stream. If I like it, I'll continue it. Testing out my new Brio 500 web camera. Test the quality. So far, I like it a lot. Seems to be a lot of good definition. It will work well. I could use streams in the following way. If anyone has a specific question about things I don't cover in regular videos, you can ask the questions here, and I'd be happy to answer them. This is a more informal space where I won't go so heavily into philosophy. But if you have any specific questions about having a disability or really anything you want to talk about, I could probably answer the question, because it seems that as long as you put a camera in my face, I have something interesting to say and interesting things to talk about. It's a skill I've developed over the years. It's a nice stream of consciousness ability. I've seen a lot of political streamers. What they do is they add their thoughts to essentially TV programming or internet programming. And that's cool, but that's kind of a cheap way to do things. I think if you're going to give your opinion on things, then you shouldn't rely so heavily on other people's created content to piggyback off your stuff. But that's how people get views, I suppose. So that works for them. Even though I have a problem or a difficulty understanding why content creators don't enforce copyright on this platform. If you're going to create content and then have your content be used by a bunch of streamers so that they can make money off it themselves, enforce the copyright and end that practice. I find that so absurd that corporations don't clamp down on that, because these streamers, not only on YouTube but on Twitch, make so much money for doing a relatively easy job. I've watched so many YouTube videos, so many political commentators on YouTube and Twitch, just talking about regular stuff and not giving very thoughtful opinions, not original opinions really, just something anyone could do. And yet they speak as if they're the only ones that could do it. They're the only ones interesting enough for people to watch. That's a false thought. That's not true. All you really need for people to be interested in you is to have a niche. If you have a niche topic that you know, an audience is going to be found. That's just a general rule that's applied to all of social media. And I believe everybody has their niche. Just because you haven't found it doesn't mean you don't have one. I think a lot of people that think they're uninteresting just haven't searched enough to find what they're knowledgeable in. Everybody's knowledgeable enough to at least have some bit of audience. We don't live in caves, you know? I mean, if you just think of this, right? When I started my YouTube channel, it's about 2.5 years ago. And now my YouTube channel has been recommended almost 600,000 times. And I'm just a regular dude. There's nothing particularly special. I've made a few shorts which have gotten some high number of views, but only a couple of them have gotten high number of views, and the rest are just, I don't know, a normalish dude doing normal things or talking about normal things. You don't have to be some celebrity to get a following. I think that's the biggest misunderstanding in the American society. We act like celebrities have some major talent, and I'm not denying they have a talent, but they're not gods. I think a lot of people are very talented and they're just scared for some reason. It's also maybe throwing MAGA a bone. I think a lot of the MAGA followers could be much smarter than they portray themselves to be. But once they hitch themselves to a conspiracy theorist, you really have no upward trajectory to which you can move. So you just have to be careful with what you associate with, because that's going to dictate how a lot of your life goes. If you're selective in your associations and you develop self-confidence, confidence in your abilities, then yeah, of course, if you continue expressing yourself in that positive, interesting way, you're going to get a following. Just like I would guarantee if I were to continue streaming on YouTube, I could get a genuine following on here, which would probably be easier than making a bunch of long videos that I then have to spend 2 days editing because I can't keep my hands straight when I go to hold a camera like this. It's amazing all the nicks and scrapes you have to take out every 200ths of a second if you're having a really shaky day. But I don't know, maybe that's just a cerebral palsy thing and doesn't really relate well to other people. But I have noticed watching other YouTube content creators, they can walk around and hold a camera that doesn't shake, and me with my little bit of shaky hand and the tremor, you have to take out a nick and a scrape every, I don't know, 5 seconds sometimes. And the nicks and scrapes are only about 200ths of a second, but you can hear them and they're annoying. So to make a better quality video, spend the time and take them out. I really think, I've said this in other videos, I really think that people with a disability, depending on how severe your disability is, if your disability is severe enough to keep you from getting a job, that seems to be my case, even though I'm clearly articulate. I think your best strategy for having a fulfilling life is to try to become somewhat famous. Now, this is obviously hard, but if you have a niche interest, you might be able to do it. My only issue is now 34, and I just came to that realization about 6 months ago that the greatest path forward is to try to become famous in some way, because the regular life path is obviously not happening. And that's unfortunate. But there's always the long shot. And the long shot is that maybe somehow you become famous in some way or important enough to enough people that you can not only generate a following, but maybe generate some money as you go along. Now, I don't think that people with a severe enough disability are ever going to generate enough money to be comfortable. But I do think that if you can find something that generates just a little bit of income for yourself, then it seems to be a snowball effect. If you become popular to the point where you become notable on a platform, let's just say in my case, that would be Chatterbait, just to give you an example. I started doing that during COVID because I was bored and I never stopped. So my following on that platform is somewhat substantial now. And because it's substantial now, it's allowed me to have an OnlyFans that makes a bit of money. Not a lot of money, but a significant enough amount to say it's something. The major problem with having a disability, though, is that if you do make some money, you're probably not going to make that much. And there seems to be a problem that I haven't solved. I don't think anybody's really solved it. How do you take $5 and make it $7 in a short period of time? Even if, say, that $5 could go down to $3 in a short period of time. What's the mode that makes that happen? Say, for example, if you went to the gas station and bought $500 worth of lottery tickets, what is the probability that your winnings in those lottery tickets exceed $500? I would love to know. I think that would be amazing to know. Another thing that I realized fits my interest pretty well, my pessimistic interest, where I think almost everything should collapse, would be shorting stock. If I knew how to do that in any educated way, that would be pretty cool. Because I do find pleasure when certain people fail. When certain arrogant people fail, I think there's some balance in the universe at that point. It's almost like Elon Musk, Tesla, currently failing, has restored some balance to the universe. He'll never see it that way, but his life is kind of on a downward trajectory right now. His purchase of Twitter was an absolute failing, and the X platform is absolute garbage now. The reach that you could generate prior to Elon Musk was so much higher. Now, if you go on X and you say something, your reach is going to be almost absolutely nothing. If you have, let's say, under 1,000 followers. And that's pretty sad because at that point, it just becomes a space for popular people to essentially cultivate more of a following. It's not really a place for creators. At least YouTube, you can disagree and think YouTube should push their content out more. But there is no universe in which I myself could give my content out to 600,000 people. I barely have 6 good friends. So I think YouTube gets a bad rap for that. And I don't think it's warranted. I know they are pushing like a family friendly type atmosphere. And I do have some complaints about that. But in terms of the absolute total reach that YouTube allows, I think that YouTube has done a remarkable thing. There is no other platform where you can upload a long form video and have it be available to so many people. I know TikTok is like the new thing and people love it so much, but those are for short form videos. And I know everybody loves short form videos now because there seems to be an attention problem. But only in long form videos can you really discuss a point. Try to have Sam Harris make a short form video. It won't work. Sam Harris's content is only possible in long form. And that's totally fine. Because the way intellectual material works, it only really works in long form. That's a good part of the reason why college lectures are so long. People say lectures are boring, but really, they have to be long and somewhat dry for you to understand the actual complexities of an issue. Actual complexities of an issue cannot be cut down to 60-second shorts. Even if those 60-second shorts get millions of views, it's almost nonsense. If you really want to understand something, you have to embrace the suck factor of it. You have to sit down and pay attention for a long period of time to actually understand anything. I noticed that I lost a subscriber today. I think by posting my most recent video, which I know the person didn't watch because I can see where the views come from. And I believe that the person unsubscribed just because they read the title of the video and didn't like the title because it's kind of mean or edgy or something like that. If you're not going to watch a video, then you're not in a space to take any action based off your 2-second reading of a headline. My major problem with Republicans seems to be almost everything they say can be dismantled with a 5-minute or 10-minute Google search. It's amazing. My family is mostly all Republicans. I have one grandma who's not, at least a MAGA Republican. And you'd be amazed the stupid stuff that you hear every single day And I'm just like, oh, well, that's wrong, and that's wrong, and that's wrong. And would you like to know why? Because I can take 5 minutes and tell you why you're wrong. But it seems, for some reason, that nobody cares about that. And it's just interesting. As society increases its complexity, you would think that people would also embrace the nature of complexity. But it seems like as society increases in complexity, people just want their stupid, simple stuff that makes them feel good for a second. It's like, I don't know, some futuristic nightmare that I'm sure has been made fun of before. I'm reminded of the movie with Owen Wilson's brother, where he is stuck in the future with a bunch of idiots, and he's the only one with some intellect from the past. I hope we're not going there, because that would be really sad. But who knows? There is one thing that's pretty interesting that I do not understand. If you are going to issue a report on somebody's mishandling of classified information and not charge them of a crime, then do not say in your report that somebody willfully retained and disseminated classified information. If you do not believe that a jury would convict on that charge, and that is the reason you are not charging that crime, do not write that the president willfully retained and disseminated information. At that point, all you're doing is trying to make everyone happy. And that is not the way life works. You cannot make everyone happy. You can try to make everyone's life a little bit better, but you cannot make everyone happy. When you try to do this, you fail. And when the US government fails, you're in for a bad situation. If the US government fails, then there's really nothing left. For as much as people want to say the United States is collapsing or will collapse and China's going to take over, that's not happening. We're number one for a reason. We cannot collapse because then everything beneath us collapses. China will not take over because I suspect, like Russia, where everyone thought that Russia was in a much better position than they actually are, as evident by the Ukrainian war that they cannot win. I feel that China is in a similar spot where they're being overestimated to a great degree. I would make the claim that although China's GDP is high, it's because they have so many people. Our GDP is high, and we have only, I don't know, probably a very small fraction of the Chinese population. The fact that the United States can do so much with so little in relative terms is pretty amazing. It's amazing that such an uneducated society could actually produce as much as we do. Let's see what we have here. Oh, we have some comments. Let's see what the comments are. Let's see. Your deeper philosophical thoughts are great content. It's thought-provoking and great for exercising, self-reflection, and promoting active cognition. I agree. If more people did that, it'd be a better society. Second comment from the same person. This person comments on all my posts, not all of them, most of them, and likes most of them. He's a good dude. People have no clue how miserable it would be under a dictatorship. That is true. But Trump will try to get you there. So we'll see. Hopefully he does not win. Although it is very clear to everyone that Joe Biden should not be the Democratic nominee for president. I think that we're taking an unnecessary chance by nominating him to be the presidential nominee. Let me see. I don't know if I can check Instagram or do any of that stuff on here, but I've seen people literally watch straight up YouTube videos on stream. So I think I'll be okay. And it might give me ideas too. Oh, this is a NASA posting. That's cool. My cousin sends me cool stuff like that sometimes. It's nice. I can't believe people actually believe we didn't go to the moon. Although, if you want to give them some credit, I would say this. I would say that in the, let's say, 1960s, so in the 60 plus years since we first went to the moon, seems like we're a bit rusty. Seems like we can't actually do things right. I think it was the recent Chinese lunar lander that landed upside down. That's not a good look. That's a very bad look. Could you imagine if we had lost an American doing that on the moon? I don't think so. I think the space program would not exist right now. But you see, it's been almost 29 minutes. I had no real plan. I just wanted to check the video quality of my webcam. And yet, we're still going with the stream of consciousness. I've said this in other videos. If you want to know what you care about, just turn on a camera and start talking. You'll eventually find what you care about because you'll only talk about the things in which you know. If you don't actually know something, it'll become clear to you very quickly. And you'll quickly change course. A lot of people take aptitude tests to find what they're good at. And I think all those tests are nonsense, aside from genuine math. I feel like a lot of skills can be learned. If you really wanted to learn them, I think anyone could learn organic chemistry. If you didn't have a developmental disability, I think you could learn it. And once you can learn organic chemistry, a lot of things would open up for you. You could then even apply to medical school if you wanted to. Let's see if you can send direct messages to people through. I don't think that you can. Maybe you can, but I am unaware. I'll learn. But yeah, very interesting. Maybe if I ever get bored and have nothing else to do, I can stream for a while. It'll be something different. It's a different it's a different feel than making formal videos where I try to string together some common theme. That's not necessarily difficult, but ideas don't come to me every single day. They tend to come to me every 4 days, and at that pace, I can only make about 2 videos a week. So I would like to take this space and just use it as a more question and answer type format. If you have a question, you could ask whatever you want, and I'll probably give a good answer. I'm not closed off to anything, and I'm pretty open. I think that's pretty apparent if you've watched any of my videos that I really don't care and I don't hold anything back. That's probably why I got a YouTube warning, but there's only 1 month of that left. Only about 30 days left of that, and then it goes away. And I have learned more of what you can't do or what YouTube doesn't want you to do when you make postings. So that's good. More information is always good. That should be the American motto. That's not what it is right now. It seems to be, I don't want to know anything. Just give me money and I don't care about anybody else as long as I make money in my 401k and my stock market. I don't care about anybody else. It's a really toxic, destructive American culture that we've developed here. It's very sad. I have friends from all around the world. Um, being a chatterbait performer, you tend to gain a following that is global. So you make friends with a lot of people from different cultures. And that's pretty cool because you get to see how other people live relative to you. And one of my best friends lives in the Philippines. And they have such a different way of thinking about life and how people should act and just a more communal atmosphere that would never ever fly here. Here, which is really detrimental to people with a disability. If you're living with your parents and you're in your 20s, let alone 30s or 40s, you're considered a loser, whether you have a disability or not. It's sad, but you're considered a loser. In the Philippines, at least in the more economically strapped regions, that doesn't seem to be the case. Seems that family is much more of a central theme, and seems that people help each other. Here, I think people are under the misimpression that I can only succeed if person X fails. And if person X doesn't fail, then I'm going to fail. It's almost as if I hope person X goes broke and loses their house so I could take what would be their stuff and make it my stuff. And a healthy society cannot operate for long in that mindset. A lot, I've come to this thought recently. A lot of people are very anti-war for very obvious reasons. War is terrible. There's a lot of human suffering, and it's generally just a bad thing. A lot of human suffering. But if you take a more general approach and just look at it from a very abstract area, you could say, which I've said in previous recent videos, that war serves a very necessary purpose of refreshing defunct societies. If you are in a society where you are no longer progressing and you are, in a sense, in a weak position, a war could serve to kind of awaken your population. And if that happens, maybe your society can survive. So, I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on that. Of course, there are unjust wars that have absolutely no justification and are just terrible. And the global society should crush those perpetrators, as is happening in Ukraine against the Russian Federation, who again thought they were going to take over Ukraine in 2 weeks. And how's that going for them? I saw one of the headlines for the recent Tucker Carlson Vladimir Putin interview was that Putin said if the United States backed off, stopped helping Ukraine, Russia could take over Ukraine in, again, 2 weeks. Well, I have news for you. The United States and the rest of the Western world is not going to stop helping Ukraine for a multitude of reasons. But the reason that is most, I would say, enjoyable to me is that for every $1 billion spent in Ukraine, the Russian military is broken that much more. And that is just awesome, considering how much we overhyped that military for so many years. They thought literally Russia had the third best military in the world. That is clearly insane. that is, I don't care if you have nuclear weapons. Your nuclear weapons probably don't even work. Like, that is absolutely nuts. They said a few months ago they were shocked that Russia was using hypersonic weapons. But the reason that they were using them and the reason that we don't use them is because we're still in the testing phase. Russia doesn't test their weapons. Their battle space is their test. So when things don't go well, just be like, oh, we learned something from that. The United States doesn't fly that way. Everything we do is to the T. There's a reason we're number one. Just look at our James Webb telescope and all all the brilliant images we're seeing now. That took so many years of planning just to even design, not even to construct. Construction is a whole different thing. But because we spent the time and the money to do it, we are getting amazing science that is giving us amazing pictures of the universe that we wouldn't have before. And that's only possible because before that, we had the Hubble telescope, which we also painstakingly designed and constructed. There's a reason the United States is number one. It's not by accident. I mean, yes, of course, we are number one in brain drain. We love to take smart foreigners from other countries, educate them here, and keep them here. That is the number one, I don't know what you call it, rocket fuel for the US economy. It's not these low-skilled blue-collar workers that MAGA likes to say. The economy, this sophisticated economy, is driven by a very small number of very educated, intelligent people which design technology. Do you have any idea how much money YouTube makes on a monthly basis? If you just look at how much money YouTube has to give out to its creators, YouTube makes so much money just as a platform for, I would argue, not even disseminating knowledge to people. They don't even do that now. All they really do, all the high creators, are just pumping out nonsense, fun stuff that people like to watch. Like, if you ever, I don't want to attack Mr. Beast so much, but if you ever watch a Mr. Beast video, really, I mean, they're just kind of stupid. Like, yeah, they're, I guess, original, but anyone could come up with an original idea. That's not hard. But I guess people like the low effort of it. They like just being able to chill and watch a video. If I was more like that, life would probably be cool too. But I'm not wired that way. I always said to myself, if I didn't have cerebral palsy, the second I graduated college, I would have joined the Air Force and done some serious things. But that's not the way life turned out. The way life turned out is I'm now 34. I make about, I don't know, $5 a day from Chatterbait and OnlyFans. And I live with my parents and have to listen to them talk about absolute nonsense, bunch of stuff they do not understand, but yet hear on Fox News and think, oh, it must be true. And then when you point out it's not true and you say why it's not true, it always comes down to them not understanding the definition of nuance. If you say a sentence and then you say, yes, but this, they don't understand that the yes, but this changes everything about that sentence. So everything you said is wrong. MAGA has a real problem with that. And I don't know if it's an educational thing or they know that, but they just don't care. I do not know what it is. People want to say that you need higher education to understand things like this. No, you don't. You do not need higher education to understand what nuance is and how nuance impacts the sentence and how you have to change your opinion based off the nuance that you just gained. You don't need higher education for that. You don't. You just need to care. If you care, then you can do whatever you want. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm a very agitated person, but for good reason. There was another thing that I was going to say. Oh, here's an interesting thing that I just said in my last video that people don't understand. Now, YouTube gives you a lot of metrics by which you can gauge your performance on the platform. But really, there's only about two metrics that matter. One of the metrics is watch time per video. That really matters. Whenever you stream or you make a video, view counts matter. But more so than view counts is your watch time. There's a reason why, in order to get paid on YouTube, you need 1,000 subscribers. But then you also need 4,000 hours of public watch time in 1 year's time to get paid. Do you know how hard that is to get 4,000 hours of public watch time? That's much harder than to get 1,000 subscribers. I don't necessarily try to get subscribers. I don't beg and plead people to subscribe. I've never asked anyone to subscribe. But I can guarantee you that I will have 1,000 subscribers long before I ever reach 4,000 public hours of watch time. It will require me, I would bet you, 3,000 subscribers to get 4,000 hours of watch time. I don't know, maybe my content's just not that interesting, but I think it is, so I'll continue it. Here's another thing. If you're ever curious, because nobody talks about this, you just hear this on the news, and everybody says, "Oh, why don't you just do this job?" as a joke. If you want to talk about OnlyFans for a second, I'm in the top 49% currently of OnlyFans creators. Okay, that encompasses the total amount of money everybody makes on a platform for a certain period of time. Now, I'll give you some numbers, okay? In about 3 years since I've been on that platform, I've made $350. $350, okay? So for me to be in the top 49%, meaning that I make more money than 51% of the people, means that almost nobody on OnlyFans makes any money whatsoever. It's very top heavy. It means that about only maybe I actually want to know. Like this is my quest, is to get down as low as possible so that I know at which point you actually have to start making money to be in a lower bracket. Like is it the top 10% of people that make a significant amount of money on that platform? Or is it the top 5% or the top 1%? That's what I want to find out. Maybe I can get there. I don't know. That's part of the reason that I bought this new webcam, to try out the quality so that I could live stream on other platforms and also YouTube. I think that would be cool if I could stream on YouTube. I watch Vash on YouTube, and he streams, and he's pretty cool. Some people don't like him. He's pretty cool, but he has some things I don't have. His voice is a lot cooler than mine, and I don't know. He's just funnier than me, but he's interesting. I'm interesting, so on some level it works. Hopefully, and I don't know. I'm actually surprised 4 people are watching this right now. I don't think anybody would. That's pretty cool. They might be my subscribers. I know the person that commented is one of my subscribers. Yeah, I know. I know my content is very niche, also, which I enjoy. I enjoy niche material because it means that only people that are really interested are going to watch the material. If you're only half interested, you're not going to watch. And I wouldn't really want to have somebody like that watching my stuff. If you're going to watch my stuff, you're probably all in. You're probably very interested in the topic, which I think is awesome. I think that's the way that it should be. But unfortunately, the society is not like that now. One person I do feel really bad for is, if you've ever watched this YouTube content creator, it's Boogie2988. he gets a lot of flack. People say for his problematic statements, which I understand are not the greatest, but everyone's trying to add their 2 cents on how to help this individual boost his YouTube views and his watch time. And a lot of what people don't understand, and this is also disability related, is that this person has a severe disability. Like a lot of the things people offer, like they say, oh, just do this, or just act this way, or just don't be like this. They don't understand the reason that he acts that way is largely because he has a disability. If you have a disability, it's going to change the way you interact with the world. And normal people aren't going to be able to relate to that because, let's say, to simplify it, if your mind, just to simplify it in the most simple, stupid way, so people can maybe understand a little bit. If you look at something and you see green, okay, but then a normal person looks at it and they're saying, oh, that's red. So when you're saying green, like you're just wrong. Just change the way you see that. Change the way you interact with that. When you have a disability, speaking more broadly outside of vision, of course, you can't interact with the world in a normal way. You don't see the world in a normal way. Like I'll give you an example. Okay, I have undoubtedly very intense undiagnosed psychological issues. Undiagnosed because I have not gone to a psychologist or a psychiatrist in a long time. Okay. However, yesterday, for whatever reason, was probably the lowest point in my life in the last, I don't know, 5 years for whatever reason. All I wanted to do that entire day was no longer exist. Okay. If you jump, forward in time, right now, it's not as bad. Okay, it's not manic or anything like that. It's just not as depressed. What I'm saying is when you're in a position like that where your mental state changes so radically, you cannot interact with the world in a normal way. People that think that if they just give you some advice that you can act on, your life is going to change, and you're a bad person if you don't act on that advice. They think you're a bad person for, I don't know, I guess they think you're ignoring their advice or whatever. I've said this in other videos. You're not ignoring their advice. What you're doing is you're understanding that there are a lot of complicating factors that they are dismissing. If they were to take in all the factors that have been dismissed, they would understand why their stupid advice doesn't work. Why their advice for a normal person works just fine, but that advice for you doesn't work. It's like, here's another example, a very personal example, okay? I have some money from a garbage truck incident that happened when I was a child, okay? Garbage truck ran over my foot, and I got some money for it, okay, which I still have. And there's always a push to get me to invest in a CD or stocks. And I'm in a CD now, which is okay. It's not bad. But the way I look at it is, if I ever wanted that money right now, today, just to bail, because I could not stand living here, because living here would produce catastrophic injury to myself, then you don't want your money tied up anywhere. You want it immediately available to you so that you can do whatever. Also, When you have a disability, in my case, when you're intelligent enough to understand how screwed you are, a lot of people that have a disability are not intelligent enough to understand how screwed the situation is, and they're probably in a better position. But if you're intelligent enough to understand how screwed your situation is, you have no illusions till your life will probably end. I understand full well how my life will probably end, and I'm okay with it. So, in terms of there being enough money to last me, my life only has to go as far as I want it to go, and that's it. So, a lot of people don't operate under that mentality, and I totally get that. They don't have to. They operate in a much more normal, healthy space. But when you have a disability, a lot of things come into play that normal people cannot understand. And now we are approaching 56 minutes of a ramble that's not really a ramble, but it's all good. I don't know. It was pretty interesting. I don't know how much longer I want to go. I think the maximum I had was 4 viewers. That's pretty nice. It was funny. Months ago, I think Matt Gaetz, the representative from Florida, who will probably get kicked out of Congress at some point, did a live stream on some platform where he only got like 6 viewers on a stream, which for him is insane. That's absolutely crazy. If you were a representative from anywhere, you should at least, I don't know, get 100 people or something. Like, that's craziness. Absolutely crazy. But, yeah. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know where the 3 people are from. I bet you they're from the United States and not from other countries. It seems that a lot of my viewership comes from the United States. About 42.5% of people that watch my videos are from the United States, followed by India, and that's only because it seems that a lot of people from India watched one of my YouTube shorts. That is my most popular video. It's kind of a stupid video, but for whatever reason, it took off for that day and got a lot of views. I think it's because it was a creative thing where I tried to show people that you can strap yourself with chains and do some leg lifts and not fall backwards. But I don't know. The analytics part of YouTube is definitely one of the most interesting parts. I look at that almost every day just to see where things fall, just to see where people are watching me from. It's interesting to know that you have global reach. Is pretty nice. You're not just talking to nobody. You could be influencing someone, however small, from literally halfway across the world. You used to be able to do that with Twitter too, before Elon destroyed it. Sad. I don't know. I do have hopes that one day that will end back in Jack Dorsey's hands, and maybe he can bring back to health his wounded platform. Because I think, again, that would restore some balance to the world. I have no illusions that there is any balance to the world. But if anyone is going to believe in religion, then I don't necessarily believe in religion, but I believe that you could theoretically strive for and see some balance to the world. At least the legal system has to operate on some fundamentally flawed view of balance and justice. Can you imagine how many people are committing a crime right now that will never get caught for that crime, and yet they'll spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars, putting in prison a few dudes that commit the same crime. Like, I understand you have to because you have no alternative. But if you just look at the numbers, it is absolutely insane. People want to say things happen for a reason. No, they don't. It's all just probability. If you want to say they happen for a reason, the reason is probability. There is no higher arching or overseeing God that has a plan and makes sure everything works or doesn't work for you. It doesn't work that way. As far as I can tell, we operate under certain laws of complexity, and that's it. I know that's not really heartfelt or satisfying, but that's really all it is, most likely. But who's to say that science won't develop more complex theories in the future, which might upend our rudimentary understanding? We have another comment. Oh, I know that. I know this dude. How you doing? Let's read what he says. I don't know. I don't know if you can read what he says, so I'll read it. I enjoyed your chats. Your new cam looks good. Thank you. It's going to be used. Yep, North Texas. Yes, same dude. I enjoyed your topics, and I don't think you were just rambling. Lots of food for thought. Yeah. But also, yep. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. It's not just rambling. It's constructive rambling. Okay. There's a difference between Trump nonsense, stupid stuff that makes absolutely no sense, and coherent, constructive rambling that has some semblance of points. Okay? I mean, the idea that two 80-year-olds are going to be president is insane. Can we get a 40-year-old that can do stream of consciousness as well as I can? That's all I'm saying. That'd be good. I don't even care who it is. Just some 40-year-old who can do stream of consciousness, and that's it. Stream of consciousness, by the way, is a very useful skill. A lot of people cannot do that. I have a little toddler nephew. He's pretty funny. He's pretty talkative. I want to see sometime in the recent future if he has the ability to say something interesting while you point a camera in his face, because not everyone has that ability, and I think it's a really, really useful ability. I remember it would have been so cool if I had done this, but I didn't do this at the time, and I don't think I would have got the job anyway. But when you graduate college, you get a lot of stupid emails from Monster about like HR recruiters emailing you about job opportunities that you're never gonna get, but they do it to a bunch of people. And one of the opportunities was to work at a news station and do like some news reporting and things like that, and like talking to a camera and something like that. And at the time, I had no interest in that really. I was always good at speaking, but and that would be really cool. The only problem is, which I made a video of earlier, and you can see in all my videos, is that I take so much time in between thoughts and words, especially when I'm thinking about what to say, because I don't use fillers like and like. People that do that, get over it. Stop doing that. Like, you need to stop doing that. It is. It's not a sign of It's not a sign of stupidity, but it's a sign of something, and it's not attractive to anyone. It's kind of hard actually doing this for this long, you kind of get I believe I have some lung issue or some diaphragm issue, which is, I guess, common among people with cerebral palsy. Said this in other videos. I was trying to get trying to get physician approved to start scuba diving lessons, and I failed the lung function test like really badly. And he comes to me and he says, "Well, your lung function is bad, and that's because you have cerebral palsy." And I was like, "Oh, really? Like, what is that? I didn't know that." And then I don't know if it was just in my head, but like a week later, after that, I could just feel like it was harder to breathe while hiking and doing all the stuff, and like taking a shower is now not the greatest, especially like a hot shower. That that really that's no longer enjoyable, which is a problem because it used to be one of the most enjoyable things for tight muscles, and also in other sexual activity, it's also harder too. But yeah, when you're talking this long, I feel kind of winded, but that's okay. I don't have anything else to do anyway. I am all on for now, and there was literally nothing else to do. I had no other video to make because I had just put up a video, and I only put up one video a day, and I didn't really have a, I don't have um, concrete thoughts about what my next video should be. If you have any thoughts on anything you'd like to see, I could think about it. I might not do it, but I could think about it. See what I'm doing now. I'm taking deep breaths, which I didn't do before. I'm winded now. I don't know how Vosh and Hassan do it for so many hours, but they also don't have lung issues. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's over an hour. I could probably do this without it getting old. I could probably do this every 3 days. Yeah, especially if more people watched and had questions and things to say. I could stretch it out. I could see how people do this for a living. If they have 100 people that watch them and feed them ideas and questions and things, I could see how they do it. I could see how they get there. Yeah. Let's see what it is. 2:10 on the East Coast. And I bet you, yeah. Well, tomorrow is the Super Bowl. And I think the greatest thing about the Super Bowl and the Chiefs run is Taylor Swift annoying conservatives. I think that's amazing. I think that's awesome. I do believe that the Chiefs win tomorrow, which would be even more awesome. I think, unfortunately, Brock Purdy is overrated. I saw some headline that said that he's akin to Drew Brees, which I think is laughable. Drew Brees is much better. A lot of a lot of great careers or great athletes are ruined by the following. The greatest athletes are drafted early, which means they go to the worst teams with no support system and just get beat up for years and years, and their talents are destroyed. If I was a talented athlete in the NFL, the number one thing I would not want to do is to be drafted early. I wouldn't care how many millions of dollars were guaranteed. You're killing your career. You're killing your career. So you're gonna get you're gonna get sacked, I don't know, 50, maybe 50 times. I don't know. I don't know football very well. But if you have a crappy offensive line and you just get beat up every day, you're destroying your talent and you're destroying what your body's going to be in the future. I don't think a lot of these people think about that, but maybe they should. Because I made a video about this recently. The effects of concussions. A lot of parents with children with cerebral palsy worry about the kids falling, breaking their bones, or hurting their bodies in some way. The number one thing you have to worry about is your kid falling the wrong way and smashing their head. If you smash your head and get a concussion, yes, of course, there's different degrees of concussion. They're not all the same. But if you get a severe concussion, I've had 2 severe concussions in my life. They happened between the ages of probably like, I don't know, 12 and 16 or something. And they were bad. And I don't necessarily believe that you ever get over those. Like I'd love to have 2 lives, one life, actually 3 lives, okay. One life that's totally normal, that's like all the rest of you. One life where you don't have the 2 concussions, so you can see where your cognitive abilities would be. And this life, just as comparison. I think that would be interesting. It really would be. I almost hope that the idea of parallel universes, and even further, maybe the idea of a parallel universe where there are infinite copies of you particularly, I hope that exists. So that maybe other people that are like me in other universes don't have to live a life where every single second of their life is dictated by a useless disability. And I use the word useless just because that's the way it makes you feel. Like, I do not understand the way psychologists are supposed to give you advice, okay? If a psychologist gives you advice for something and they can walk away and go home and not live the life that you live every single second of every single day, I do not care what you have to say. What you have to say is useless to me and you should stop. Don't give me any I feel like that's partially the reason that, to get very personal, I feel like that's partially the reason that my father and I's relationship is not that great. There are other reasons, but he's one of these people that likes to fix everything or be in charge of everything. He likes to have like a project to work on, something that you can have like an end state that you shoot for. That at the end you've made some improvement or something. There are things in life where there are no improvements to be made, where there are no answers that I can give you that would make anything better. And when you have a disability that's severe enough, you're in a situation where you can ask me questions or whatever, but at the end of the day, there is no answer that's going to make really any difference to your second by second life. Like, yeah, I can I can make a new friend like these people on the side here who have commented. And yeah, we can have 5 seconds of an interaction in which I agree with something you said or I give you an insight. But they don't help you on a day-to-day basis, and their disability is different than mine. So even on that level, you're never going to have any degree of compatibility there. So at the end of the day, maybe this is true for everyone, but it's more true for people with disabilities. You are alone. And you better get good with being alone because that's where you are. Even if you have family around you, that family doesn't understand you. Like you want your family to understand you. The only way they could understand you, I said this also in another video, is maybe in their last 8 years of life, where they finally have a physical disability that they're not coming back from. Then they're in your shoes because I have a physical disability that I'm not coming back from unless there's some miraculous development in stroke treatment because that's ultimately what cerebral palsy in my case is. Okay. There was an issue shortly after birth, as far as I can tell, which is common among very premature babies. Okay. And that caused a lack of oxygen. And that caused some brain death or some brain damage to specific regions of my brain. So unless you get to a miraculous point where you can somehow regrow damaged brain, my situation is not going to improve. Okay. The reason that I'm able to walk with no canes on grass right now is because I retrained my brain over years and went through pain and pain and pain that still exists. It's actually come back now. My legs are spasming again for whatever reason. But ultimately, that progress is minimal. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, there's so much more progress that would have to be made for you to even be a functional member of society. I remember when I got this stupid job working for some company that sold wall guards, which is if you ever are in a hospital, wall guards are on the wall and they stop scratching from like bedding hitting the wall. Okay. And my boss, I had my 1 month review, which was the worst experience ever. And that was basically the end. That told me that I was never going to have a job ever again. And she said something like, I didn't realize that a college graduate, which I am, I graduated with honors, environmental science degree. She said, I didn't realize that someone with a disability could type as slow as you. And I was like, yeah, I'm educated and I have a disability, but also my fingers don't work. So if your fingers don't work, then what are you gonna do? Like, my job required me to talk on the phone and also like type people's things and look stuff up and talk to them at the same time. It's the worst. And she said, can you like try to improve that? Like, can you? I remember this was a Friday. This was a Friday, and she said, "Can you over the weekend like try to like work on that and make it better?" And I was like, "You know how many years I spent in occupational therapy in school just trying to increase my typing speed? Like, it's not going to get better over a weekend. It didn't even get better over years. There's a certain limit that you hit, and then you don't surpass that limit. Okay, it's like what they would call in chemistry. Oh, what's it called? It's like almost like a threshold energy. Okay, reactions only go forward once you've surpassed like a threshold energy, which allows bonds to break, and then once bonds break, other bonds can form. But you need to be able to get to that point, and if you can't, everything is garbage. It's all broken. Let's read this comment here. It says, bingo about being alone. Sad but so true. I feel like people look at me as a broken person, and people want nothing to do with a broken person. So yes, I stay lonely, uh, sad really, but I do deal with it. Yes, of course. And the way you deal with it, there are many ways to deal with it. Alcohol is one of them. I don't drink anymore because if I drank, I would probably no longer be alive because once I drink, I go There are two modes, okay? I go really happy, in which everything is forgotten, or I go really depressed, in which a lot of bad things can happen. Now, the thing about this comment is when you feel this way, your psychological state is so on a trigger. It can so change so quickly. It's not an impulse control problem. I don't think it's that. I think it's just that you are on such a knife's edge. There's such a fine line between barely being okay and being not okay to the point where you want to do some really bad things to yourself that you will not survive. And nobody's going to help you with that. I think ultimately there was a stat, okay? It said the number like 4 reasons how people with cerebral palsy die. One, they die of lung problems, which I can attest. If I do have COPD or asthma, which my numbers suggest, it's one of the two. You have breathing problems. You have problems with your heart, okay? You have accidents like falling, which is, I think, one of the major ways that life could end for myself or anyone. If you just make a wrong calculation with placing weight on your foot the wrong way and you fall backwards, when you fall backwards, that usually doesn't end well for you. There's usually one way that ends, and that ends in a concussion, which could result in a seizure, which results in your death. Or the other way it ends, the other way, a person with cerebral palsy's life could end, has to do with psychological issues. And that is what I'm highlighting here. People don't want to talk about that because they just want to talk about how children fare with cerebral palsy. And of course, everybody cares about how children fare with cerebral palsy. There's a reason that they get so much funding. It's because when you're young, your body's still pliable, your mind is still pliable. So that's where all your progress is going to be made. But that doesn't mean that they're the only ones that matter. Just because you can't improve the life of an adult doesn't mean that they don't exist. You should always acknowledge that the struggle's there and that problems exist, whether or not you can solve them or not. You should always acknowledge problems. Don't throw them under the rug. Another comment says, "You are correct in that no one can understand how it feels to live with your disability unless they live with almost the identical disability, including your family." That is 100% true. Because even if you have the same disability, there are varying degrees of that disability. It's like, if you take COVID, for example, okay? There's some people that got COVID that didn't even know they had COVID because it didn't affect them. Then there's some people that got mildly affected, and some people that ended up in the ICU and on a ventilator and eventually dead because of COVID. But they all had the same thing. So everyone's expression of their disease or condition is different. My experience is going to be different than yours. Hopefully, it's better, but it could be worse. It's difficult to find information and resources. Yeah, it's because it doesn't exist because nobody cares. He was saying that it's difficult to find resources that pertain to adults with CP. It's because there is no money in that, because cerebral palsy generally doesn't affect enough people. And the money that does exist for that is going to go to the segment of the population that doctors think they can most help. Now, by most help, I don't necessarily think they have a clear definition of that. What do they necessarily mean? What do they necessarily mean by most help? Does that mean putting everyone in foot braces, which I argue doesn't help anyone? That's one of my major contentions. Foot braces help no one. Foot braces allow your foot to remain weak. If you want to learn how to stand or learn how to walk with no canes, the only thing you can do, and this is dangerous too, but this is what I did and it's the only thing that works. The only thing you can do, if you want to be able to stand for 30 minutes, you have to stand for 30 minutes. If you want to be able to walk with one cane, you have to walk with one cane. You take the risk and you walk with one cane. You fall one day and you hope the next day you don't fall as hard. I understand people are never going to take that risk. Doctors are never going to allow you to take that risk. But that is the only thing that works. If you want to learn to do anything, you have to do that thing. I know there are genetic abilities that play into it too. Not everyone is athletic as Not everyone is as athletic as myself or willing to do the things I have done. But if you want to do things, you actually have to do those things. It is very sad that adults don't have resources. And it is very sad that if they're in a position where they're intelligent and they can't get a job because they're just too slow, that's extra sad. When they just sit when they just sit here and communicate to the world, and then their parents, or at least one of their parents, think that they don't actually do anything because one of those parents doesn't understand the large numbers and doesn't understand that my message has gone out to 600,000 people, or doesn't understand that I have 4,000 followers on another website that's totally different than this one, or that I make some money every single day doing something. It's just people are just people are just simplistic and stupid, and it's sad. And it's sad when those people are your family because you expect more from your family. You expect your family to be as intelligent as you are, but they might be intelligent, but it could be in totally different areas. And it's sad because you have no relatable connection to them whatsoever. That's why you should maybe try to reach a point where you're not reliant on anyone for your well being, at least psychological well being. Don't rely on anyone for your psychological well being because people can disappear in a second. And they will disappear when things get tough. They will disappear. Whether they actually disappear or just disappear from your life in a certain way, people will disappear in a way that makes them feel comfortable. Because people generally don't like to be uncomfortable unless you're really messed up in the head like I am. People don't like to be uncomfortable. I don't like being cold, but I don't mind being uncomfortable. Because you know what? At the end of the day, bring it. Because every single second of every single day is uncomfortable, one way or another. See, I don't need a psychologist because I understand my problems already and nobody can help me. Okay, it's been almost an hour and a half. I think that's going to be the end unless I come up with something totally different and interesting to say. Let me think here. What is not disability related or Trump related? I hope he goes to prison so badly. He probably will. I don't envision a world in which a convicted felon on at least 70 counts becomes the next president of the United States. I don't care how old Joe Biden is or how badly his brain doesn't work anymore. That's pretty funny. I wonder if I wonder if I wonder if the two people that were watching me just clicked off as soon as stated my opinion on Donald Trump and his felony convictions in the future. It's always fun to think about things like that, to think about why people did a certain action that they did. It's like correlation does not equal causation, and it's always fun to think about, even though people don't understand correlation and causation for anything. They think that if two things happen at the same time, they must be causative. No, they're correlative, but not causative. They could be causative, they don't have to be. Yeah, I think I'm done too. They probably thought maybe future topic parallel universes. I did touch on that a little bit. I only know a little bit, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe I could do this every 3 days or so. But yeah, so I got a total of 4. I was hoping for 5, but I don't think we're gonna get 5 people here. 4 is good. 4 is a good start. Also, I think can people can watch your stream after it's done, right? Yes. So I'll get more on that. That'll be interesting. If you have any if you have any other if you have any other ideas, I'll always take your ideas because they're always good. Um, I don't necessarily like to take other people's ideas because I like to have original ideas that aren't influenced by other people's um, thought processes. But I will always take an idea into consideration. Always. One of the tricks to YouTube is to learn what not to say, because you can sit on here for 20 hours and talk about whatever you want as long as you don't violate the terms of service. The trick is to know what not to say. And I think with that, I think I think I'm gonna be done. So I hope you enjoyed. We can do this again. Oh yeah. You think so? I don't. Again, I don't think they're not bad people, and they're well meaning. But on some level, there's a protective mechanism that they're employing where they simplify everything and they think that for whatever reason, you're just the one that's like not getting how simple everything could be. But yes, I do see that. Yeah. All right. All right, that's going to be the end. See you later. 1:33. Your stream will stop immediately and you will no longer be live. I'm going to end stream.